Airing on Asheville FM 103.3 LPFM in Asheville, this is The Final Straw Radio, a weekly anarchist and anti-authoritarian broadcasts and podcast emanating out of occupied Chalagi land in southern Appalachia. We bring you voices and perspectives from projects and struggles all around the world, and you can find our archives, transcripts, ways to follow us and support us at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org.
The following is a recording from the 2024 Another Carolina Anarchist Book Fair in so-called Asheville, North Carolina. You can find more info and recordings from this and other years at acabookfair.noblogs.org. This is a presentation entitled Solidarity, Spirituality, and Liberatory Promise on a Turtle's Back with Ashanti Alston. From the description: trusting in solidarity, the mysterium of spirituality, and a promise from God knows where, aware that in this historical moment might just be Palestine. What does it mean to be in the midst of all of this right now? Right now. Ashanti Alston is a revolutionary Black nationalist, anarchist, abolitionist, speaker, writer, elder motivator, a longtime member of the Jericho Movement. He is presently an advisory board member of the National Jericho Movement and co-founding board member of the Center for Grassroots Organizing. He continues giving talks and writing inspirational analyses concerning the dismantling of the myriad oppressive regimes in which we find ourselves enmeshed. Ashanti is one of the few former members of the Black Panther Party who identifies as an anarchist in the tradition of ancestor Kwesi Balagoon. He developed abolitionist politics in the early years of critical resistance. He has helped save the life of a baby pig with animal liberationists, learned depth queer politics from being challenged, and wants to see non-ego eldership partaking through sincerely loving the younger generations who truly want to carry it on.
The introducing voice at the beginning is Cindy Milstein. And if you're interested in supporting Ashanti, you can check our show notes for a fundraiser to help cover some moving costs. First, a couple of quick announcements. Prisoners have been filing grievances at Granville Correctional, a prison in Butner, North Carolina, to no avail, complaining about the lack of legally mandated showers and access to the exercise yard. And they are asking for phone calls and emails to demand a resumption of serving these basic needs, despite any complaints about understaffing. If you want to check our show notes, you can find call and email scripts and the numbers and addresses to direct your words at. And then there's this.
It's back. It's bigger. It's better. It's organizing to create a more mutual and less hierarchical world. The Boston Anarchist Book Fair. This is a family-friendly event with lots of literature and all kinds of other fun and engaging activities. The Boston Anarchist Book Fair will be held on October 19th and 20th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Cambridge Community Center on 5 Callender Street, Cambridge. For more information, visit our website, bostonanarchistbookfair.org, or follow our Instagram, @Boston Anarchist Book Fair. See you at the book fair, comrades.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I want to really welcome everybody here on behalf of the ACAB Book Fair. It is such a joy and pleasure and delight for us to organize this and then have so many incredibly amazing people show up in one place. And why does this have to just be 3 days? And it's also beautiful how everybody has been really helping. So I want to thank everybody who's done so much this weekend to make this weekend happen and to get here and to be here. Thank you, everyone. Really welcome.
Thank you.
And I wasn't planning to introduce Ashanti, but I actually feel delighted. I used to see Ashanti a lot, and we used to be involved in anarchist summer schools together and anarchist, other projects together. We did a lot together, and we saw each other a lot, and feel like dear friends. And then, I don't think we've seen each other for 12 years or so, and it feels super powerful to be together again with friends. And Ashanti, I've always really appreciated like, I keep saying, sweetheart. But it's just someone who's like really, I mean, I'm an older anarchist too, and it's really nice to be around in this multi-generational space with someone who's like so humble and able to still see possibility and able to still see that we need to be in this for the long haul and be together no matter where we are with our anarchism. Ashanti has had a long, illustrious career with being a revolutionary and a radical, starting as a teenager with the Black Panthers, moving into the Black Liberation Army, the state trying to contain and destroy Ashanti, and Ashanti not letting them do that, and coming out and being involved, with the Jericho political prisoner support movement, among other things, and is also a parent, which is equally woo. Okay, so enough of me. I'm going to let Ashanti speak, and then we'll do some Q&A afterward.
All right. Right on. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure. I might sit down. I don't know, man. I'm not used to the sitting down thing. But first of all, thank you for the introduction. And it has been years, and it's just been so good to reconnect. So a lot of times when you know that we've all been through so much, and then you start seeing some of your old comrades, man, it kind of lifts your spirits up, right on. But I'm gonna need you to work with me right now because I still got a few butterflies going here, right? So, back in them days, Black Panther Party, you know, when we said power to the people, the response was always all power to the people, all power to the people. So I would want you to like help me to release these revolutionary butterflies out into your midst with your response. Power to the people.
All power to the people.
Power to the people.
All power to the people.
One more time. Power to the people.
All power to the people.
I see him. All right. Now, and it's clear. I said to the people. I did not say to the preachers, to the politicians, to them profiteers, to the people. See, that's also my anarchist analysis of the Black Panther Party. I'm not saying that, you know, it wasn't an anarchist group, but there was so much about it that helped move me towards anarchism, anti-authoritarian thinkings and practices, because the experience in the party taught me the dangers of authoritarianism, even when it was coming from good places. You know, we want to liberate our people, we want to help make a revolution in the United States. But then what happens when you got an ideology and a structure that so much resembles the ideology and structure of what you're fighting, with just different words, and then the FBI and the counterintelligence program and the local police is able to just feed in on your own internalized colonial dynamics, the sexisms, the egos, and all them other things. Next thing you know, we're fighting each other. Movements are collapsing. There's attacks on chapters. There's comrades getting framed on charges. Others had to take off going into exile. Others, like Fred Hampton, and those killed in their beds. It's a dangerous struggle. But the fact that I have and others survive, and I'm 70 now, you know. My knees feel it more, but so I accept the elder thing now, right? I'm an elder. So at least to have opportunities to share with you those things that I hope will be helpful. And in this particular case, when I say to you, because this is an anarchist gathering where I just been so excited since coming here Thursday to return to a spirit of we gonna make this happen. That's an anarchist spirit to me, because the other folks I'm talking to are still trying to figure out, how are we going to indoctrinate people in the community to do the right thing? You're talking about how can we create the liberatory programs right now with the knowledges that we are learning right now, that we know we will learn more tomorrow, and put it into all kinds of experimental practices. That's where it's at. That it is not the ideological approach that just says, we got this all laid out. We got it laid out. You just got to follow this. No, they did it in China. No, they did it in Cuba. They did it in Africa. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. If anybody was at Modibo's, and Modibo, I think, is my elder. Modibo's like in his early 80s. And just to say this about him also, it was such an honor for me to finally meet him in person. Longer than I had been doing this. And still believe in his 80s that we can change the world. And in very anti-authoritarian ways. Every workshop that I was able to attend today just reaffirms for me the same thing. When I went to the harm reduction one, because I couldn't get into yours, it was so packed. I'm like, this harm reduction, it's all new to me, because I feel like I've been out of it for a long time. I've finally been able to say easily, depression. And the depression comes when I feel like, man, is a generation going to take this, or are they going to get bamboozled and buy into this madness again? And when I do that and isolate myself, I get depressed. I sit and do nothing. The years go by. But then miraculous things happen. One of them was Seattle, way back. Another one was the Zapatista movement, right? The latest one is what? Who would have thought what's going on in occupied Palestine, that the international resistance would be at this level? Never seen anything like it in my 70 years. So it makes me feel like, well, Ashanti, you need to get back in there. Get back in there. And I feel like in the last year, there's been things happening that have allowed me to feel like I can still be in there and just give it my best, And in the process, I am learning so much from the social media stuff, which I always thought was quite crazy. But then to realize it also has us watching by minute the genocide going on over there. But it's allowing us to connect, to increase our resistance, the demonstrations, what we're doing on the campuses. Like, oh my God, it's not over. It's not over. So I want to share that with you, because I'm back in. I am here. And I thank you for the way you have invited me here. All right. The title I chose was, I don't know why I choose these. I try to do these fancy titles, right? Solidarity, Spirituality, and the Liberatory Promise on a Turtle's Back. You don't know what I'm talking about with a turtle, right? The turtle? Turtle Island, right? Yeah. But I wanted us to think of images. So I would go on the internet and I put in on the back of the turtle. And I put in civilization on the back of a turtle. I wanted the images that would show this turtle. Aang was a great help for me, I should tell you. And the particular scene where he's talking to the lion turtle. But I wanted to imagine in my mind what it means for indigenous folks who have a certain mythology around Turtle Island. And what it meant for Aang to have this conversation with the turtle, to get this wisdom. What does it mean for those who, we can be so scientific, we can just kind of lop that off as, oh, that's myths, that's folk tales, that means nothing. But what does it mean to those who, that is their culture, and they get their wisdom from these stories? What happened to the role of stories? You know, not everything has to be so scientific. And so in us, even as it helps us to focus on the plight of indigenous folks in this country, let's look at what it means that Turtle Island, before the European conquest, had its ways of living. And then here comes the conquest, and they start building on top of the back of the turtle, just removing whatever was there, the villages, the agricultural scenes and whatever, and you are chopping down trees, you are blowing up mountains, you are digging deep into the earth, and you start to build the United States or this North American empire on the back. I wanted to be able to envision our role as, how can we get this empire off the back of the turtle? And as movements, and it can only happen with mass social movements, that we become maybe that can opener that just starts cranking around this turtle, and at some point we just gonna flip this motherfucker off into the galaxy, you know? So that we might begin to really create them lives we know we deserve. We know we want to live better. You know, what I like about the fact that we are anarchists is that our visions tend to be that imaginative. Our practices tend to be that daring and risky. That's why I think we have such an important role to play. Because a lot of other folks are just dealing with such old ideas, not critiquing them, old practices, not just looking at them to see how destructive or poisonous they can be, not looking at, like, settler colonialism is one thing to say, but what happens when you look at internalized colonialism? What does it look like as we've been here and it's seeped all in our behaviors, our bodies, not allowing us? That means that we have got to fight this battle on different levels. What happens in solidarity a lot of times, even just in a simple way, is how do we look at each other as we go down the street sometime or knock on the neighbor's door? How do we look at each other and from saying, hey, neighbor, how you doing? Was it last night, the night before, the neighbors had lost the cat? Those where I'm staying, burst. They lost the cat. And so they're like, well, let's exchange numbers. If we see the cat, we'll help you to return the cat. Isn't that not like solidarity, mutual aid? What happens when you hear what happened to the indigenous folks? This was Wounded Knee. And you want to figure out, well, how do you help the folks in Wounded Knee? Attica jumps off. And being that I'm in New York, New Jersey at the time, there's folks like, well, we got to figure out how to get up there and help them prisoners in rebellion. You know, the act of doing those things has the potential to not only really aid them, but to change you in ways that you may not have even expected. That is amazing. It is an amazing way to be in the world where that kind of surprise is allowed to happen in your life. You know, there's a story that some of you may know from reading Assata Shakur's autobiography, when she talks about her grandmother. She had, I don't know if it's a phone conversation or a grandmother came to see her. And her grandmother's this religious woman. And the grandmother's like, she called her Joanne, I'm sure. And she's like, Joanne, I had a dream last night. And in that dream, you had got free. And I'm sure Assata at the time and then was plotting anyhow, but Assata, that coming from grandma, from that place, and I'm sure Assata ain't trying to do no scientific analysis of what her grandmama telling her. She knows her grandma's a spiritual woman. Take it. for what it's worth. So what happens eventually, maybe within the next month, is Assata is free. Those kind of acts of solidarity, because this was an integrated underground team. It was not only Black Liberation Army, it was, who is it? Weather Underground. Yeah. And others. Some was no organization, but to come together in them ways in solidarity to free Assata Shakur. And I bring that up so that it's not just all in, we're going to change, we're going to evolve, we're going to become new. Sometimes it's in the very physical acts of freeing somebody from one of the most oppressive situations you can be in. But in that process, every one of them involved in that process was affected by it in some really great humanizing ways when it was successful. We're in a struggle that we gotta be open to what we do on the everyday in our organizing and how we relate to people, how we meet people, how we make love, how we talk to folks, how we get up, how we get down, means something. One of the most craziest thing I think for people to get is that our oppression is really deep and on many levels. But one of the ways to deal with the internalized part is that you gotta seek joy. And sometimes this sounds crazy. How can you seek joy when there's so much suffering? Because that joy is the most powerful way to combat the internalized oppression that you've been carrying. And this is what I learned from the years in prison, from reading all the radical psychologies and the different things like that you got to return to something that for many sounds, oh, that's kind of wishy-washy. But no, Martin Luther King said it's the most powerful force in the universe, love. And at first, when I read that from him in prison, I'm like, oh, Martin, you're always talking that love. But I'm also reading books on love from Eric Fromm to others. And I'm like, oh, I get it, or at least I'm getting it. And looking at what we've been through, I'm like, I don't want to repeat those same things when I get out. And I want to be with folks like-minded and like-hearted folks when I get out, so that we're trying to create new ways of making this transformation of society happen. That includes our transformation in the process. That does not leave it up to some future time when we done overcame the capitalist class. That is such bull. I use bull because I heard my other comrades use bull. But those things become very, very important. So when I get the opportunities to share, those are things I want to share. When we was dealing with the Palestine presentation earlier on the resistance, what lessons can we learn? I'm already feeling like, oh man, this is a hard thing to convey to folks. That we may be in struggles where people are really going to get hurt, But I think of that young one, Tortuga, who I'm sure did not have any idea he's going to end life there, right? And many others who have, or who goes to jail for one day, gets bailed out, but that might be the most traumatic experience they have ever had, and is going to need help. So in our formations, we have got to work into what we do, how we learn collective care, community care, self-care. It is one of the most powerful ways for us to deal with the internalized stuff as we're dealing with these mega systems of oppression that we're going to meet. How are we going to change with each other? I had one question yesterday around what happens when someone is physically or sexually harmed within the movement. It happens. I think I shared one example of back in our days when that has happened. And we didn't necessarily have the best methods, but it at least let me know that we need to have more understandings. Harm reduction, more understandings. When someone is hurt deep inside, there are folks now who can help us on them levels to help those individuals to kind of recover. Otherwise, we kind of push them to the side. One of the new words I've learned this year is neurodivergency. Now for me, it's so exciting. For one, it's like, what the is neurodivergency? And because it came up in this gathering. So I know when I'm going home, I'm getting right on the laptop. And I'm looking it up. Looking it up gives me an understanding of something that can be so important in our movements. So we stop isolating folks who don't fit the norm, Like, how do we do that? We're the inclusive ones. We're the ones who include. We're the ones that at least make them efforts. It's always a struggle, but we make them efforts. But for me to have that understanding, it also allowed me to look back on folks who I may have avoided. Because they sound a little crazy, they talked a little crazy, they moved a little crazy. Like, okay, I'm going to change that. And so I know that when I have times to talk, I want to bring that up, at least from me. Because I know that I got some social capital, being Ashanti from the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army. I done did all this prison time, nothing compared with what Mamiya is doing now. And I put all that in perspective. There ain't nothing, But the things that help us to change within, for me, is still primary. The incident in the library, I'm just going to be brief. But I'm like, these my chillins here. Okay? And I know I could just sit back because they got this. But it's like, we're the ones who are at least willing to stand and fight. And not in the macho sense that we're just going to fight. We got an understanding with it. We know that everything we do has a much larger and deeper picture, because the world we want is much larger and deeper. It's that Octavia Butler world. It's them type of science fiction worlds, right? That's why I think that imagination part becomes so important. We cannot be locked down. We don't lock ourselves down, It's because in this struggle, we do need everything. We need everybody. As a Black revolutionary, and one who, I'm very clear, I call myself a revolutionary nationalist. But I also say that, you got to go beyond nationalism, right? But one of the reasons for the beyond is because I know old school Black nationalism excluded women, excluded queer folks. But I understand the power of it, the thoughts of what brings Black people together. Even if we say Black nation, even if we say, Black liberation, we know it's talking about our community. But I know that my role is to make sure that we're being inclusive in our circles. So I'm constantly telling you, especially young Black folks, that, hey, those who are speaking in our behalf, because anarchists don't play you speaking in our behalf. We don't do that. But in our circles, we need to be the ones to speak up and say, we ain't all on that page. If you're going to talk about our people, you're talking about us too. And we're playing a part in this as you are. And maybe you might be the one who has to move out. In the 60s too, there was a point where there was a saying, move on over or we'll move all over you, right? That point may have come again in the Black movement as we speak. And I'm using this as an example because as we do all the things we do in our localities, in our homes, in our private lives, we got to keep in mind, just like I do, that people somewhere, everywhere, always are trying to raise the stakes or trying to break out of the box. And when I don't remind myself when I go into depression, my friends get on me. They say, you're watching too much CNN, too much NBC or that station. So I got to keep reminding myself, no, remember Seattle? Remember the Zapatistas? Remember the uprising with George Floyd? Oh, no, I got to remember. I got to remind myself. I'm telling you that as an elder now. I got to keep reminding myself. You got to keep reminding yourself that all over people are doing things that will really confirm and affirm that we can make this revolution, insurrectionary change happen. So, I'm not sure if there's some point I'm gonna see if I can play something. When I do it, I'm gonna put the microphone to give you an example of what I'm saying. Because there's times when I'm sitting at home and my wife would say, I'm sending you something, I don't know if it's TikTok or, I don't know them things. But it was this brother at a meeting with other Black folks. I'll stop there for a minute. I have been in my own head searching for what ways could those of us in the Black community confront those malist, sexist, heterosexist folks in the Black community who are really impediments to our liberation and participation in the broader movements. And I'm like, man, we have got to confront these folks, you know? And I could not find the words. And then my wife sends me something, and this brother's at a meeting, and he just lets these other folks, Black folks in the meeting, all Black, he lets them have it. And he's telling them that, you can't accept the leadership of Black women and Black queers because of who they having sex with? He just lets them have it and challenges them. Like he says, their leadership seems to be calculated. They're there for me when I can't be there for myself because the police is shooting me and throwing me in prison. And you telling me you concerned with who they having sex with? I'm like, this is the language I've been looking for. Because sometimes you have got to do that, even in your own neighborhood, your own community. You know, you got to kind of let folks know that, no, this has to stop. I am here. This has to stop. So all these things become really important, even if they seem insignificant in an isolated way. They're really not, you know? We are the ones that are really putting out visions of ways that we can be in this landmass beyond empire, respecting that this is indigenous land. We are the ones that are really putting forth that we need to have hard conversations. We are the ones who are saying, hey, right now, them folks who are using needles over there, they need some help. Right now, them folks that are in prison over there, they need some help. Right now, these children are not getting a proper education. We need to be able to help them. Immediate stuff. But every immediate stuff has broader, deeper visions going on. And we have got to keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. So to the last few days, I know tomorrow, I'm here tomorrow, I am still on a cloud. I don't know if you can tell, but it just confirms and affirms to me that it ain't over. Y'all make me so proud. So proud. So I'm not necessarily going to be long, but I wanted to talk about the thing about the promise, the liberatory promise, which basically comes down to this. In a religious way, you could call it a covenant. In a legal way, you could call it a promise. But in a spiritual way, it can also be like your ancestors. You know that your ancestors did the best they could for you. And when you give them thought, it is really like drawing from them that they wanted the best for you. Your spirituality may be telling you that, and this is that covenant, right? If you do these things, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in the people, then we'll win. This land can change. And it's like passed on from generation to generation. In the Black movement, we talk, probably to this day, we talk about the promised land. It all comes from the Bible, the promised land. We ain't got to the promised land yet. But look I think it's because of the situation we're in. We were kidnapped, put in that ship and brought here. We can't even call Africa the promised land. It may have to be here. It's got to be here in dialogue with our indigenous folks, but we ain't got nowhere else to go. We're not immigrants, The Chicanos, they're not immigrants. The indigenous folks, they're not immigrants. We're not immigrants. We came here in the most horrible way. But this ain't been home to us yet. So the promise is that together we can create the vision of what a home for all of us could be on the kind of liberatory basis that really allows for, like maybe that's the Zapatista thing about a world where many worlds exist, Them kind of imaginative visionings. We still have to do that. We have to do that, probably more important than anything else, to know why we engage in the most minute actions or behaviors. Right. So I'm going to see if I can play this, if I can get it. I have to put it up to the microphone. Because this brother really, and the reason I'm playing is because I want to see my peoples pull it together. You see the election thing going on now. You got all these Uncle Tom collaborating Black folks that's going to do everything they can to pull us back into this monster's grip. With the even with militant rhetoric. That's an Al Sharpton, right? But when you got others on the ground having these other conversations, they give you an indication that whatever those are saying in the media, listen to the conversations that are going on the ground level in the communities. That might give you more of an insight of the level of resistance and the potential of more resistance. And I think Modibo was saying that also with his presentation. He's telling you the books that him and Andrew are written are dealing with resistance going back to the 1500s when they brought the first Africans over, how they had to resist in very intimate, direct, democratic ways. Modibo brought up at the end, they didn't write these books for people to just know the historical explanations that they're putting out, but for us to see that even as we live now, there are people who are engaging in direct democracy, and sometimes we just need the vision to see it and to know how to support that. Which is why, again, we are not the vanguards. We just really trying to help ourselves and others to see how we can already do this and just bring the streams together. So as I go, I'm gonna try to get this. I ain't the best at this, and my computer is not the fastest. Everybody's all right so far? Yeah. while I'm doing this too, just in New York last month, I went to New York. I'm in Rhode Island, but two of our comrades had passed. Sekou Odinga, who was Black Panther Party, Black Liberation Army. One of those, when they set up the international chapter in the Black Panther Party in Algiers, they was meeting all these different liberation movements, including the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PFLP and stuff. And Sekou and others was part of those who went to training camps run by the Palestinians to learn guerrilla warfare and to bring them skills back here. So there's stories like that some of them people didn't even know until the memorial, so because some of that was shared. But then there's also Greg Thomas, professor in Massachusetts. He did a book on George Jackson, who was at a certain point in the California prisons, he was like the revolutionary organizer. At one point was incorporated into the Black Panther Party, but then they added, they had killed his brother 1 year who was trying to help free him, and then he made an escape attempt and they killed him. But when they raided his cell and took out everything from his cell, he had 2 handwritten poems, and one of them was called The Enemy of the Sun. And when it was put out, a lot of people thought that he wrote it. But then in some research, they realized that it was from a well-known Palestinian poet who at the time was in prison. But it was the impact of the Black Panther Party and the Palestinian Liberation Movement had on each other, So it's, again, you never know how events in the world are going to impact you. Okay, I'm getting back to this.
Get shot dead in the street. Guess who's not on the front lines? The whole tough now out there organizing. Black women and gay men are running. So if you sit here and tell me that you can't follow leadership from a gay man or a black woman, to be honest, you pussy. Because if you can't take somebody who's far more calculated to run this because of who they decide to sex with. I'm worried about who you trying to have sex with. What is your issue? If they gay, that has nothing to do with you. If they a woman, that has nothing to do with you. Let them leave. They trying to make sure we not shot no more. You not doing it. You not doing it. I can't do it. A lot of us can't do it. Why? We up. If we come into contact with the police, we going to jail. So when they out here and they putting their motherfucking lives on it, when they really dying, there's an astronomical number of black women dead for no reason. A number of gay, trans people dying. Guess what color they are? They black. So us saying, I can't get behind that because you gay. Fuck out of you. Get behind them and shut up or stay at home.
And that's it, right? So I say that because you never know what helps you to keep them spirits up. Or sometimes, you just could be down in the dumps and you're like, are we going to pull this together? And it could be something as simple as that. It could be you hearing a poem. It could be you just watching a couple walking down the street with the child. Those things that feed that spirit in you for more, for better, for freedom. When I hear that, then I know that things I was concerned with, even in the black community, that lets me know it's already happening. So even in the different struggles that we represent in here, you should have a sense that what you're doing is already part of 1,000 other efforts, work being done. And we just need to see it. It'd be great if we can figure out more ways to connect, but it's already happening. The revolution, that insurrectionary impulse is there. People want better. So we gotta see it and we gotta believe it. We gotta believe it. So I'm gonna leave it there because if there are questions and stuff, I would definitely take them. But to know you're beautiful. You are the ones, and you allow me to be a part of this, that is on the forefront of changing this world. Y'all are doing this. And I'm glad that there's that intergenerational thing that we can do now too, because I'm so glad we cut the older generation off. We were too angry, and you can't be up in your anger all the time. But the fact that we can do this in an intergenerational way means a lot as well. We can give you what we can. We don't need to be your leaders, but we can give you what we can, and help you, especially to believe that we can win. We can win. Power to the people.
All power to the people.
Right on. All right, thank you. Thank you all. Okay. So if do we want to do the?
Want to?
If they want,
Okay.
I might sit down for that. Well, how much? Short? Oh, short? Oh.
Well, it's, do you want to, how long do you want to?
How much time I got?
We started late.
Well, let's see how I go then.
Okay.
I wouldn't go past it though.
We need to have people come up.
Oh.
Okay.
That's cool.
Sorry, we're trying to figure out what we're doing here. So we need to use the mic for folks asking questions. So, and there's a lot of people and it's hard to see people, but maybe a few hands could go up and one or two people could come up and speak the questions to the mic. It's being recorded. If you don't want to be on that recording, you can be cut out, but we're going to keep recording for Ashanti. It's part of it. Okay. And I'm having trouble seeing because the light's coming in. So if, one or two folks want to come up and ask brief questions that Ashanti can answer. I hope we're all here in solidarity with each other as we're all questioning together. So sorry to make you speak into the mic, but.
I work at a liquor store that's very small, and most of us are queer and trans. We're trying to maintain a culture of mask wearing among employees, and we interact with a lot of customers who have seen that as being almost a direct threat to their being. And we have seen a little bit of escalation of discomfort, especially in older generations, as a result. What would be your advice when interacting with these people on a day-to-day basis, often every day, to help make them feel included and empowered to do that for them? And thank you. Thank you so much.
Ask a couple and then.
Do you want a couple in a row or just want to answer?
Let's do a couple in a row then.
Okay.
Okay.
Anarchism in action. We want to do a couple more questions and then Ashanti kind of respond to it. So anyone else feel like coming up and saying something maybe?
As someone who's been on the receiving end of some of the worst that our prison state/police state has to offer, what would your advice be for people who are in conflict with the police as part of the struggle, and for people who are currently incarcerated?
I wanted to ask what ways you cultivate joy in your life that have worked over and over for you throughout the years, no matter what you have had to face.
And one more question.
Okay.
There's been a Black trans movement that has run parallel historically to a lot of sort of like Black liberationist struggles. And I feel like Black trans people have historically been relegated to specific margins of those movements. What do you make of this parallel track that has historically existed, but it's so often forgotten and removed from Black revolutionary history? And how do we even conceptualize a future Black trans resistance if we can't even begin to conceptualize this past one?
Okay, so the first one, right?
Whatever moves you in that spirit.
Oh, well, I can definitely on yours. A big part of I feel like my responsibility is because of Panthers, and I hate to say this, but of those from the Panther Party, I think I might be one of the few who will even bring up the fact that our movements still exclude women, and don't want to hear nothing about queer, trans, nothing. And I'm like, well, if you give me the platform, I'm going to tell you that you need to. And either way, it's going to happen if you're talking about black people. I did that at the Black Radical conference in Atlanta. I think it was this year. And because like I am tired of it. And tired of it knowing that as a young revolutionary, I participated in it. Not knowing any better, I participated. But once I know, then that's got to come to an end. And it takes sometimes to when you feel you're speaking out it for the first times. I knew it took some courage for me, like, nope, I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to do it every time after that, right? We have to challenge our people. That's one of the reasons I wanted to show that there, because it's happening even when I didn't even know it was happening. I just felt like a lot of trans, queer in our communities that just pretty much said, no, them, man, I've been hurt from family to others so much, I don't even care. I know that doesn't work for us, but I know that we have to be very careful with it because we have to still move as a people. So at least as a Panther, I know I'm going to speak on it, but then I'm always on the internet and listening to others who also speak on it, and then I'm reaching out. I want us to create more ways to be together so that our voice becomes heard and our power gets to be felt. In this sense, yeah, we need power. And this other thing, I don't even know if I can. I say we a lot when I'm talking about trans and queer community. I'm a cis male. I don't even know if I can do that. I don't even know if I'm supposed to ask for permission. But that's the revolutionary community I want to be a part of. You understand? So I know that we have to do that battle. And I'm hoping that I still will meet more folks and we figure out ways to communicate. Yeah. All right, so I know the other one. Give it to me again.
What would your advice be for people who are in conflict with the police as part of the struggle, and for people who are currently incarcerated?
Conflict with the police or in the prison system. You know, it's like we know that we're always going to confront the police. They are the frontline troops. Panther Party, we call them the occupying army. And it made sense to those of us who needed to see that to begin to understand their role. You know, in the heady days, you might find yourself confronting the police in the street and in the prisons. Sometimes you also learn some wisdom and know that you ain't got to confront all the time and throw a punch to their jaw all the time. You know, maybe there's other ways you can do it, especially depending on what the situation is. I was just telling my comrade, you know, who will be a father, you know, when a child is in the family, that means you ain't making decisions for you anymore. You're making decisions for the family. If you're part of an organization, you also got to understand you ain't making decisions for you. You're also considering the organization. You know, it requires a certain kind of discipline. But it's like there's still the trauma that you're going to get from these people. Is as much as I think that's harm reduction too, as much as you can avoid having them kind of direct traumatic experiences, you do. If you on a road by yourself and they pull you over, man, don't start calling them pigs and all that mother, why you pulling me over? No, just, okay, here, officer, here's my you know, okay, give me the ticket, see you later. You know, you want to live, you want to survive to fight another day. You know, the ones who are doing time in there, they learn very quick, like, you got to learn how to get around these people for your sanity, for your survival. And then at that point, if you ever make the parole board, you want to be able to give your best little performance. And you got to do that sometimes, you know. But it's a survival skill. but it's also constantly recognizing the police is the police, whether they're in the prisons, they on the street, whether they got the uniform going to Vietnam, other places, they're still playing the police role. You understand that they're part of this system that's got to change. Anti-police, prison system, all that is my concept of abolition. That whole thing got to go. Yeah. The other one was
Joy.
joy. And then there's one after that. Here's what I do. The last few days, easy. I got joy. This is an easy one. I got joy. And I know that I need to keep putting myself in situations of joy like this more. I think it's been part of the problem that I've been isolating. And I feel like it's been for years and years. Stop isolating. Get amongst them folks. I say like-minded and like-hearted, because feeling like I'm amongst people that we want to make this thing happen, it keeps my spirits up. Sometimes at home, it's putting on music. I'm from Plainfield, New Jersey, the land of Parliament Funkadelic. All right? I might have Parliament Funkadelic blasting. Sometimes walking the dog up and down the neighborhood. Let me tell you about the neighborhood. Barrington is a suburb of Providence. Barrington is pretty white. I don't know what my neighbors think when I'm playing the music. I don't put them earplugs in. I want to hear the music. But I'm bopping as I'm walking the dog, and I'm sure the neighbor's like, what is he doing? But the music brings up things for me. It was them good times. Parliament Funkadelic, Temptation, Stevie Wonder, the jazz players. Sometimes I put on Compared to What? I don't know if you're familiar with it. Yes. And so those things keep my spirits up. Going to church. I'm back in church. A little thing about my church. It's a Hebrew Israelite church. Not the people with the buckles and the outfits and stuff, just regular folks, right? But it comes out of the black experience, so it might seem like a regular black gospel, regular church, but we have our rituals, which are different from rabbinic and other stuff. But man, when you go there and you hear the singing and there's times when you're getting up and there's a marching thing, right? To me, the marching thing is like, that's that marching thing. We at war. Hold up that banner. Don't let the banner fall. It means a lot to me. I need that community, and I need them kind of visuals. And I understand that the visuals are from a language we don't use anymore, but I understand it. It helps me to know that I'm still in this battle. So going to church is the thing too. And then connecting with my comrades, my old comrades. Whether on the phone or sometimes it might be a memorial, And it's those moments when we're together that we know we've been through something that not others will quite understand. And they may not get when we laughing over something we done did, and we hope nobody ever knows, But we knew we've been through hell, but we came out still with some level of humanity and an ability to laugh about it. So those are the kind of things now. And then with the kids, my oldest is 50 and 49. Then I got married again, so it's a 14-year-old and 11-year-old. Just watching, and they be thinking, their friends think I'm granddaddy, right? And then my kids said, no, that's dad, that's my baba. But anyhow, watching them grow. Like my son who's 14. Big afro, right? And he's into track and field, and I'm watching his body grow. He's got this little hairline coming. Joy. And that I'm still here to be able to see it, because I did not think I was going to make it past 20. Did not think. So I'm 50 years over that, but it's like being able to watch them. It's them kind of moments of joy. And that's the kind of thing that I want us all to like. Moments of joy are precious. We have got to know that we need them. and for moments when you gotta sometimes take off. You're going to the beach, you're going on a hiking trip, you whatever. Do it because it is you building even a resistance against the that we face. Joy, and you're changing in the process, So I'm really big on that now, and I think I've been in a good space now for maybe the last year for a long time, and I plan on staying. So I know there was one more. The first one.
Basically, getting canceled for wearing masks at work.
Okay, I think it's, and if I got that right, I think we need to figure out how to have better conversations with folks who we know they're not necessarily on the same page as us. One of mine was around, and this was probably 10, 15 years ago, being at anarchist spaces, and you start hearing the pronoun thing. And I ain't understand it then, but even as I did, I'm like, if I, who make an effort to understand it, find it difficult because I gotta remember, my memory ain't the best, but what about the just other folks in the communities that they don't even know what the hell you're talking about? And they might come into a meeting out of curiosity and you giving them vibes like because they ain't call you by the pronoun you want it, you got an attitude and you're actually showing it to them. I want you to have some compassion for those of us who are older. It may take a minute, but we try. Those of us who try. Others who don't try, you may just want to, put it like, I got a limit. If you can't handle that, maybe we don't need to talk, whatever, but, but people are going to get it because you've been pushing it. And others have been pushing it, and the children have been pushing it. My daughter, especially one at 11, she already has a sense of who she is, and like, okay, so it's going to get better, but there's got to be some compassion for those of us who have the resistance is not like from a mean spirit. It's just like, what the hell is this? And you talking about someone who physically looks like female has a different way or a different way to define themselves. Some folks are like, what the hell? The Rush Limbaugh folks are all on this. That's why they're saying, like, you got to get Trump in office. They are really on this thing of trans and queer and gay and like, which is another reason why if Trump should get in, we need to figure out how we're going to support each other because we know some of the things Trump will do that Biden may not do as fast. But we know that, on the issues of gay and queer, there's going to be some things that Congress may not pass and that kind of makes it easier. And it's just like alternatives to abortion. We already should be thinking, I'm sure we are, about what we can do if certain things happen. We're going to take care of ourselves and possibly show others that they can do the same because the state is the state. The empire is the empire. Yeah. I'm good.
Do you want to wrap up? Do you want to take a
Do you have any more? I could if you want. I always like the this part because I know people are going to ask some direct stuff that they want to know or share.
So many faces. First of all, thank you. Your contribution to the struggle is like innumerable and immense. I oftentimes find myself returning to your words in times of intense despair, and I just want to thank you so much for that. I came from so-called Chicago, where Statesville Prison is planned to be torn down and replaced with a reformative, so-called rehabilitative prison instead. Someone inside also passed away this past weekend from a heat wave that affected him, and he had an asthma attack and died. So I just want to ask, knowing the death trap that prison is, how do you think that we can be in more material solidarity and support of people inside? Beyond book packing, letter writing, and phone zaps, and all that type of stuff. Especially knowing that folks inside are this wellspring of revolutionary, insurrectionary knowledge and practice.
The prison issue and the political prisoner issues are some of the hardest issues to get our communities to take on. As a member of the Jericho Movement, around Jericho fights for the freedom of political prisoners in the United States. Man, we've been doing this for decades. Even just getting the folks in the community to like, can you listen to us that they are political prisoners, that they've been in there, for decades. They're the same ones many times who the politicians got them voting for more police, more prison construction, or better, even if they're saying better prison, no one is talking about abolition. It seemed like at some point the abolition was gaining some ground, and maybe, I don't know if that's still the case, but I still think we need to work at that. But I think we got to put ourselves in a situation where we're having more face-to-face with key figures in the community. And when I say key figures, I don't necessarily mean the politicians. Maybe sometimes the preachers, maybe the deacons and deaconesses, maybe in the regular folks, or folks who are at the community centers and possibly even the street organizations. I think that we don't do the face-to-face anymore. And I think because of that, we're not developing a better way of presenting the kind of narrative that might get folks to understand why we need to intervene in what's going on in the prisons, why we need to get our political prisoners free, There's all kind of things. It's the most difficult area that I have ever worked in. There's not been many joyous moments. My comrade, Veronza Bowers, just got out of several months ago after 40-something years. There ain't no recognition about who he is, his contributions, nothing. When Dhoruba Ben Wahad got out, there was a little recognition. When Jalil Muntakim got out after almost 50 years, there's no recognition. But every decade, every year he was in there, we was fighting for his release and going to as many different venues to speak about political prisoners. Reverend Joy Powell is in upstate New York prison now. No one knows about her. Reverend Joy Powell is one of them who was she has stories similar to Malcolm X when he was Detroit Red. That was Reverend Joy Powell at one time. And then she changed. She became a minister, and I think maybe in Rochester, New York, or somewhere upstate, she's fighting against police brutality. Next thing you know, they done got her jammed up on something, and she's doing, I don't know how many years in upstate New York prisoner, as a New York, political prisoner. So it's hard, but I think the challenge is us to find a different narrative and to start going into communities and having actual conversations with, I say, key folks. It might be, they say influencers today, maybe on certain levels. I'm not big on the social media with that, but to be able to sit down with folks and say, hey, the situation we've been in. You know that there's people going to come forth and fight back or try to lead us or raise consciousness. Why are they sitting in prison? All in the women's prisons, men's prisons, there is such a clamp down that even me trying to stay up on it now, I can't imagine how that would be for me. I just did total 14 years. But it's what I hear they're doing now, that's to drive you insane. That's it. You don't even get the actual letters anymore. You know, you might get a visit and there's the screen. If they do come up, you're so far away you may not get a visit. And it's the same thing inside. The way that they talk to you, treat you, is like you're an animal, you know. So it's a big order. And so I don't have no immediate answers, but I always go to, we don't have them kind of conversations in the community no more, you know. And I think that we need to start trying to build grassroots movements from the bottom by having them conversations. A lot of times the street organizations can't get too involved because they already got records. And the slightest violation they got, then they right back in, you know, so it even makes it harder, you know. But what they're doing in the prisons, and they're expanding, we will be that open air prison like Palestine, with Gaza and all these situations now. The ways that they are laying down their technologies of control, you know, so it ain't just the prisons anymore. I feel like it's the welfare. I don't even think they call it welfare no more. Welfare. You go. You got to go to court for all kind of fines. Your car fine, your house fine, or they getting ready to do all these other things. They got us under such control. The internet got us under such control. The cameras on the corners got the things that fly. What's them things? So it feels like it's closing in, and it keeps closing, and we got to figure out more how to break out of them confinements, and to get the people to see, man, we can't keep wasting time. Because it'll get to the point where we can't even breathe without their permission, you know. So we strike out, you know. Anarchists, we know what to do. So, but that's my. I wish I had more to give you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've written down part of a question because we've had other comrades ask for advice when dealing with physical conflictuality with the state. And you've also spoken about times when, if you're alone in the car at night, where strategic de-escalation might be something that you approach. We call that a version of a harm reductive approach. This has come up in conversation. I also relate to what you're saying about this kind of disorientation and difficulty remembering the lessons that you've learned and other people have taught you sometimes at these very tense fight or flight moments. So I'm wondering if you have some lessons that you can put into the collective consciousness. What might go through your mind in a moment where you're choosing between this crossroads? Not to create a duality between moments of intentional escalation and otherwise.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just real quick on that, I did share with somebody today. There was times I've been in demonstrations, marches, and the police start really getting out of hand. There was one time where they was like really being abusive to this elder black woman. And I can't take that. I can't stand and watch that. So I see myself walking. But the younger comrades, I had already told them about me in this sense. When you see me in that zone, all I need you to do, stand in front of me, make me look you in the eye. That's all. And just say Ashanti. Because I know and they know I'm getting ready to jump on this mother. I'm saying that I'm getting. So imagine how I felt when I'm watching George Floyd. I am so angry at the people around him. I understand they're scared, but you just stood there and watched them kill this black man till he could not, till his last breath. There's times where you gotta really chill out. You gotta consider who's around you. You got to consider your own, the repercussions of your own actions. So it's not always like, you can't just snap like that. And if your folks who you're close to know you, they know what to do. And I would give them young folks permission. Y'all know, get in front of me. Get in front of me. And I think a part of that, why I don't have no fears, because from the Panthers to the BLA, I learned to take them on. I learned that, they can be just as scared as anybody else, you know. So, but the thing is to think, just Think about it. And that's why it's important for when you let people know you, know your limitations, it becomes really important. You know, that's why it's really great when we can share our stories with each other so folks know, you know, who you are, what you've been through, you know, so some things don't trigger you. And the Panther Party, and this is around sexual abuse. A lot of times, you know, there was sexual abuse in the Black Panther Party, but even more, we didn't know who was sexually abused before they even joined the Black Panther Party, you know, and you do certain things and it's a trigger. So me now, it's like, we need to know each other, but that calls for trust too. That calls for that kind of vulnerability that you say, I need to share with you that when you do this or you say that, it's a trigger. I need to feel safe. I need to feel like it matters, you know, to me what you do and how it's going to impact me. That's what we have to do more. It can't be no side thought. It has to be fully integrated into how we're raising ourselves, you know. But that's the thing. So the thing with what do you do in them situations? Do you fight? Sometimes you do. Do you stand back? Sometimes you do. Do you think of as much as possible who's around you, who needs to be safe around you? Is that mother and the child that's close by you? Is it possible that they could get hurt? There's things to think about. So it ain't just that the macho thing. You think about it. And imagine them situations even beforehand, because sometimes that helps you to make snap judgments when it actually happens. Yeah. I know you got it. And then we'll wrap it up after.
So one of the questions I had is regarding influencer people, like how social capital affects the way that we organize sometimes, where people that are very influential in a place because they're more outspoken or they know the right words to say and therefore can get into positions of more influence in anarchist circles. For example, in the Panther Party, like Huey or whoever, like people that get in those leadership-like roles, how do we combat that? Sometimes it's subtle. I've seen it in anarchist circles where it happens, but it's not an actual leader. They don't have a chairman or a title, yet they're able to move people around situations sometimes and therefore have more influence or bully other people. You see this sometimes. People don't know how to approach this, especially when a person is of a certain identity as well, or like goes through this specific struggle, and just finding a way of dealing with that. And then another thing, kind of adding to what you were saying about agitation, as an anarchist, my approach was always to agitate. Anywhere you go at the beginning, we hold the sign and we stayed on the sidewalk where it's legal, but it's blah, right? What can we do? Because normally, historically, anarchism has been agitative, right? You go to places we're known for doing the rowdy. So I was just wondering, like, expanding on that a little bit.
I think we should stay rowdy. I think we should stay rowdy. Really. But on the other level, we talking about interpersonal relationships within the group, and why it's important to have some things you agree upon in terms of how you're going to function with each other. What we're trying to do in Providence now with this, we're putting together a community center. But we done had the first retreat we just had was just laying down things as simple as, how do you want to be treated in the organization? How do you want your relationship to be with others? How do you want to make decisions? How do you want to deal with issues of, egos and the authoritarian? Because it ain't like, anarchists are free of all. We got all these tendencies. We're in this society, But I do think to this day, we're more likely to at least be willing to talk about it and try to struggle against it. I think other folks is not even on their agendas. That's so-called movement folks. But there's a lot of information out here now, readings that people can do that helps us to see why it's important for us to get to know each other and for us to create the kind of practices that helps us to minimize, the tendencies of the bully, the sexist, the one who's super submissive, that has never known anything else but, and possibly but listening to a man, you know, that we know that these are some of the internalized oppressions that we have to deal with. So let's learn them. And there's a lot of people that do trainings in them. There's a lot of books out on it. And we's are reading people, man. Come on. You know, and I say that because I'm reading things like I still all the time, because I know the internal stuff is really the thing that killed us in the Panther Party. The FBI just knew how to manipulate it, you know. So what do? We develop those capacities to help us to evolve, to get to better places from our stories. Our stories are so different. Each one is unique, but we got to know it. And it helps if we can get to the point to be honest and vulnerable, to share with the trust that ain't nobody going to abuse what you just shared with them, that they will work with you, you and others will work together to be better as a human being and as what you do as an organizational member. It's a struggle. So that's why, I mean, we ain't bringing this thing down without at the same time getting it out of us. It's got to be the same. You can't do one without the other. That was that new age stuff. Oh, we just going to, free ourselves, and no consideration about the mega oppressions. We got to do both, and so the more that we do it, I think the better we can get. And I think it helps us also if we get better with each other. When we see in the community folks who have similar things, we got a little bit of experience and wisdom and how to help others in the community that don't have this experience to know how to get to a better place. They want to join the group. They see things that is like, one quick example. I think one of the things that helped with when I was critical resistance, because critical resistance was pretty much run by anarchists and anti-authoritarians, the ways that we did meetings was always to get the men to not talk so much and to step back and to use the board to be inclusive on everybody's input. And some people, when they saw that, who had no political experience, like, they really want my opinion, it's going up on the board, that blew their minds, because no other time had that happened to them. And it was us saying, no, we are all important, and we all want to be included in them. And I'm telling you, it was us who were putting them examples forward, So we got to continue to do things like that. Right on. All right. I thank you for being patient. If I said anything rambling or whatnot, you can blame it on Cindy, But this has been great. This has been good. Let's leave from here with that spirit that we can change. We got ancestors. We got folks who we are building off of them. We know that this can happen, that what the United States is now can be no more. It can be no more. All right. Our dreams up. Let's make it happen. Power to the people one last time.
If you want to support The Final Straw Radio, you can subscribe to our podcast via various platforms, follow, rate, and share our materials online, and learn more at tfsr.wtf. And if you'd like to fund our transcription work that allows for easier translation, more accessibility of content, and the zines that we produce from each interview, consider picking up some merch from us or making a one-time or recurring donation via PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, or LibrePay, or joining our Patreon to access early release content and other goodies via the links that you can find at tfsr.wtf/support. And now some words from anarchist prisoner Sean Swain.
With all of the content that's available on streaming and on cable and in theaters, there are a lot of important stories that have yet to be told. I'd personally love to see stories of slave revolts like those led by Nat Turner or Denmark Vesey. Maybe a movie about Gioke, the Chiricahua Apache better known as Geronimo. But shortly, Hollywood is going to be providing us a biopic about former President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan. I haven't seen it yet, and I won't. And I encourage you not to see it either. I can tell you all you need to know about Reagan in the next 5 minutes, and likely, most of what I'm going to tell you about will be omitted from the movie. Here goes. As governor of California, Reagan sent in the National Guard to brutalize student protesters and take back control of the state's universities. He never met a problem that couldn't be solved with billy clubs. In the run-up to the 1980 presidential election, as he ran against Jimmy Carter, Reagan campaigned on Carter's weakness, that he was too soft, that he couldn't get Iran to release the U.S. hostages that were held there. What no one knew at the time was that Reagan's campaign was in back-channel talks with the Iranians, urging the Iranian government to hold on to the hostages until after the election. And they did. The day Reagan was sworn in, Iran released the hostages, and the Reagan administration later funneled millions in secret payments to the Iranian hostage takers. So while the Iranians initially took American hostages, Reagan made sure to keep them hostage for his own political gains. When he came into office, Reagan remade the entire economy. He swept away every tenet of Keynesian economics that were in practice since FDR, and instead embraced the theory of Austrian Baron von Hayek, that government had to be controlling the commanding heights of the economy, had to slash regulation, had to privatize wherever possible, had to shrink and disempower government, and empower the most profitable corporations. These are the same theories that destroyed Chile under Augusto Pinochet. Reagan imposed those theories onto the whole global economy, and he broke the world. And he didn't stop even after the theories had failed. He exponentially increased military spending, making the U.S. capable of fighting a 13-front war. He also increased nukes. And at the same time, he eliminated the entire mental health infrastructure in the U.S., shutting down psychiatric institutions and handing its patients bus tickets. As a consequence of that, it wouldn't be uncommon to see folks who struggle with serious mental health sitting on benches outside of bus stations with nowhere to go. Thanks to Ronald Reagan, the U.S. response to mental health is called prison. Long before Donald Trump praised Elon Musk for firing striking workers, Reagan exercised authority he did not legally have, and he fired all air traffic controllers. He then hired non-union replacements who caused countless near disasters in air travel and endangered everyone. He bombed Libya based on what might well be a false assumption that Libya took down a plane over Lockerbie, Scotland. In the bombing, he killed Muammar Gaddafi's daughter, provoking Gaddafi to become a lifelong enemy of the United States. After France had refused to allow the U.S. bombers to fly over their airspace on the way there, those bombers also hit the Reagan administration explained that the bombers' aim was off because they were tired after flying around French airspace. So you see, Reagan never saw a problem that couldn't be solved with bombs. Secretly, and behind Congress's back, Reagan sent death squads into Nicaragua and El Salvador, trained by the U.S. to destabilize the duly elected Sandinista government. The Air America 2 pilots dropping off the supplies and guns and bullets in Nicaragua took the opportunity to bring cocaine back to the U.S. on their return flights, funding their illegal misadventures abroad by creating the crack epidemic at home. How ironic that Reagan's wife Nancy coined the phrase just say no. But crack isn't the only way that Reagan destroyed American lives. For the better part of a decade, Reagan actively blocked funding for research in finding a cure for AIDS. People died by the millions, and Reagan not only failed to fund research projects that could have saved lives, actively blocked and obstructed funding on purpose. People like actor Rock Hudson and singer Freddie Mercury likely died as a consequence of homophobic Reagan policies. Reagan never saw a problem he couldn't solve by withholding funding. By the end of his presidency, his mind already racked by dementia. Whenever Reagan was asked a question by media that was off topic, he would stare blankly like a deer caught in the headlights, and some aide would bail him out. They hid his deteriorating mental condition from the public, perhaps for years. Reagan is still celebrated by those on the far right as a kind of Jesus figure who remade America. And really, he did. Reagan's great talent was he could project an idea of America, a sense of who America was. And he got everyone to buy into that idea. While making America feel good about itself, that approach was not very self-reflective or introspective, contributing to the shallowing of American self-identity. He made us proud and dumb and just a little dangerous. Reagan is not a movie. He's not a cause for celebrating, but a cause for mourning. We have a duty and obligation to everything and everyone he destroyed to make sure no one else makes such stupid movies. So give Reagan all the worst reviews possible on all of the review sites. Make sure movie producers know we don't want to see cherry-picked feel-goods about radical right-wing sociopaths. Let's stop their historical reinventions and national gaslighting right in their tracks. This is anarchist prisoner Sean Swain from the Super Duper Uber Mega Ultra Hyper Turbo Multi Maxi Max in Youngstown, Ohio. If you're giving Reagan a 0 rating on Rotten Tomatoes, you are the resistance.
You can still write Sean at his new old new again address at Sean Swain number A243205 OSP Youngstown 878 Coatesville Hubbard Road, Youngstown, Ohio 44505. You can find his past writings, updates on his case, hear his past audio, find out how to get his books, plus ways to contribute to his legal defense fund at seanswain.org.
The Final Straw is a proud member of the Channel Zero network of anarchist podcasts, and here's a jingle from another member of CZN.
Hello and welcome to The Child and Its Enemies, a podcast about queer and neurodivergent kids living out anarchy and youth liberation. Here at The Child and Its Enemies, we believe that youth autonomy is not only crucial to queer and trans liberation, but to anarchy itself. Governance is inherently based on projecting linear narratives of time and development and gender onto our necessarily asynchronous and atemporal queer lives. And youth and teens are at the center of this form of oppression. Our goal with the podcast is to create a space by and for youth that challenges all forms of control and inspires us to create queer, feral, ageless networks of care. I'm your host, MK Zariel. I'm 15 years old, and I'm the youth correspondent at the Anarchist Review of Books, author of Debate Me Bro, and organizer of some all-ages queer spaces in my city and online. If you want to learn more or join us on Discord and Signal, our website is thechildanditsenemies.noblogs.org.
This is The Final Straw Radio. This show will later be archived at thefinalstrawradio.noblogs.org, and you can email us with questions and suggestions at thefinalstrawradio@riseup.net or thefinalstrawradio@protonmail.com. If you'd like to use any episode for your project or radio show, feel free to do so. Just send us an email to let us know. If you care to, you can send us letters at TFSR, P.O. Box 6004, Asheville, North Carolina, 28816. Programming support is brought to you by Firestorm Books. Located at 1022 Haywood Road in West Asheville, Firestorm is a bookstore and social movement space owned by its workers, in operation since 2008. Their event calendar and complete catalog of books can be found online at firestorm.coop.